Welcome, my friends. Hello, hello. Here we are. Date today, 23rd of May 2024. Happy full moon coming up in about 12 hours. It's Wesak, Buddha's birthday or incarnation day. It was a big day here in Vietnam because 70% of the country is Buddhist, even though it's a communist state. Very interesting here, this idea of a communist state. The people pay no tax, no income tax at all. There's just tax paid on businesses and across the board consumption tax, VAT tax, whatever you want to call it, right on everything that's purchased. That's it. There's also no free healthcare and no free education. So it sort of blows out of the water the concept I had of what a communist state would be anyways. Yeah, it's it's far more capitalist than you would think. Anyways, that's an aside. It's Chat with Matt. Hello, hello, welcome. Half an hour or so. I know I'm a day late as well. Yesterday we had things on. We actually went to Marble Mountain and what's called Monkey Mountain here. I posted some photos I think I was on my private page, which was quite appropriate considering it's in this period of time of Wesak and because it's a Buddhist temple. It's the oldest Buddhist temple here in central Vietnam, 1604. It was established there in Marble Mountain. The caves there have been used for spirituality for a long time. They're dating back to the 2nd century, where the Champa people, who were, at least from about the 4th century on, Hindu. I'm not quite sure if they were Hindu then in the 2nd century, but maybe. But yes, there's evidence of Hindu temples in the same cave complex dating back from about the 4th century. So interesting story of how Buddhism came down from the north and sort of took over from Hindu here in Vietnam. Of course, Vietnam's no stranger to having things change. No stranger to change. They've had our guide yesterday, who was fantastic actually, it was one of the best guides we've ever had, was talking on the drive out to Da Nang, where Marble Mountain and Monkey Mountain is, about how over the last 4,000 years Vietnam has known 38 years of peace. The rest of the time they've been at war of some description. It might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but the lands here are very fertile and they are very good fishing grounds, and they have been desired by many people for a long time. And of course, Vietnam as a country, is made up of 50, might get this wrong, it's either 54 or 57 different ethnicities, peoples. So it's, it was originally a bunch of kingdoms or tribes, anywho's, who no doubt have fought amongst themselves for a lot of that time as well. I'm just watching a guy out here with a basically a big rake or a big wide plough levelling the rice fields. They just flooded the fields 2 days ago, and then we got a huge rainstorm too, which helped them no end, I'm sure, in flooding the rice fields. And then they go in with a tractor and sort of mulch it all up to make a finer mud in the top layer, and then they go in by hand, back-breaking work early in the morning, obviously, before it gets too hot, using the water as their guide to level the field off. They pull, the mud into the hollows and scrape away the high points, because it's important that it's very level for when they seed, when they cast the seed. They seem to cast the seed here in Vietnam for the rice rather than actually plant seedlings like what I've witnessed them doing Indonesia and stuff. So that's interesting as well. Differences in their agricultural techniques. Vietnam, of course, is the biggest producer of rice in the world, which is also interesting because it's not a very big country, and considering they have to feed their 100 million inhabitants as well, that's quite a feat to be the biggest exporter. Maybe it's not the biggest exporter, maybe it's just the biggest producer of rice. Anywho's, I might have misheard that or got that wrong. Facts are overrated anyway. Anyway, I'm here to talk to whatever you guys might want to talk about rather than just listening to me rattle on. Ms. Jen Burns wrote in last night, about 4 hours ago. I'm just looking at the thing here. Here's the little post I put on with me at a cooking class a few days ago during our retreat, which went very well, by the way. Thank you for asking. Retreat was awesome. The singing's coming from the school, the rumbling's coming from the washing machine here because we're in a homestay. So there's a washing machine on the back deck of our host's place, and the school is across the other side of those rice fields. And of course the pool is here. And my room is pretty much directly behind me. So now you know everything about my current living situation. We're only here for another 3 nights, and then we're off Thailand next for a week to find a venue there around the Chiang Mai district, and then we're going to Croatia where we will be delivering a retreat on the island of Brač. So, Jen wrote in when I advertised, what are some of the themes that are most alive in the universal collective right now? Great question. What are some of the themes most alive in the universal collective? Well, on the macro, on the high time frame, definitely the most alive theme is change, and intensity and chaos that go with change. This particular change seems to be particularly intense and chaotic. I think that's a big theme that's going to be with us for some time and has already been with us for some time, and it is still very alive, and I think it's useful to recognize that so that you can contextualize what's going on in your life. You can maintain a perspective around this overriding theme that we're all traversing, which is I just noticed my collar's not looking very good. There we go. Change. Things are changing, and things are changing in intense ways through the process of chaos, right? Things are breaking down to be rebuilt. And I think if you can remember that that's what's going on in the larger collective, you can make peace with what might be going on in your personal life, which no doubt will be some form of reflection of that, right? I think we're all personally going through change, and the chaos and the intensity and the discomfort, I think, that goes along with that, right? Recognizing the discomfort of experiencing change. On a lower time frame, for me personally, part of this process of change has been around recognizing how unreal this reality is, and my perception of this reality, more to the point. Is there really a guy out there scraping mud around a rice paddy? Yes, I believe so. What experience he's having, I have no idea, but that's not important. I'm not talking about, it all being, a projection of my mind, simulation. I think there is a soul having an experience over there as he works in a rice field, and he's having his experience of this quote-unquote reality. The point is, the reality that I'm experiencing is heavily influenced by my perspective of it, right? My feelings towards that guy, whether it's right or wrong of what he's doing, why he could be doing it a different way, why aren't they using a machine to do that, etc., 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 right? Or me actually envying the simplicity of his life and the simplicity of the life of a rice farmer. Again, right, I could be over-romanticizing the experience of what he's doing, or being absolutely horrified that he's having to labour in, reasonably hot. It's reasonably hot here, even though it's 7 a.m. It's still, well over, well, it's probably around about 30 or low 30s, which is reasonably high. It's going to get up to about 35, 36, 37 today. Anywho, what the heat has to do with it, I don't know. For me, from my perspective, the heat makes it hard to work. From his perspective, he's been working in the heat all his life. So it's just quote unquote normal. And that's it, right? The point is we're all having our own experiences based on our own perspectives, and not to conclusionalize the experience that I'm having and think that it's reality, because it's only my reality, and my reality can change as quick as my perception can change, which in some instances can be pretty quick, and in other instances is painfully slow. Emily Rose. So yeah, I've been quite intentional and what's that word that starts with C? Curious, really, of this exploration around reality and illusion, and how malleable the world is. I can't, I'm not suggesting that if I think hard enough I can change, what that guy's doing over there. I'm not talking about, using mind power to change the environment so much as I'm talking about relaxing into perspectives that change the experience for me, right? Because ultimately, what's the environment if it's not just your experience of the environment, And I think just coming to a deeper understanding that everything is relative to our own perspective is really very valuable right now, in terms of allowing us to progress through this macro time of intense change and the discomfort that goes with that, as we experience a lot of chaotic destabilization of things that we have come to regard as normal and quote unquote permanent, governance systems, banking systems, financial things, social structure and normality, and perspectives, what's right and wrong, moral judgments. We cast these things in quote unquote stone, like the commandments. But is that really useful? Is that really useful? Or is it being well challenged at the moment? Other things that I think are alive in the universal collective right now, and this is coming back to the same theme of change, I think for me, I've been noticing how much emergence is kind of present. Personally, a lot of new things emerging from this sort of chaotic disintegration of what was considered normal. I think we're seeing the seeds of emergence with new states of being. I think we're seeing that biologically as well as mentally, emotionally, psychologically. I'm noticing in my body new capacities, and I'm also experiencing a lot of unfoldings and changings. Oh, you're a big skink. Missing that last half of your tail, which doesn't look very comfortable, but anyway, a lot of changes biologically, I feel, in my body. I've had a lot of random stuff going on. I know we've just experienced all of these solar activity as well, which no doubt influenced this state of comfort in the body. A lot of aches and pains, a lot of twitching and shifting, musculoskeletally as well as organically, as in of the organs. So yeah, I've noticed digestive changes and shifts. I've noticed metabolic changes and shifts in my body. Been aware of cellular sort of what would we call that? Metabolic, I think, is the correct term to use. Cellular metabolic changes. I recognize that we are utilizing what we might call light or prana, energy, life force, in more effective ways. I think we have the capacity to, a growing capacity to sustain ourselves in non-traditional ways, e.g. not needing to eat as much. And at the same time, noticing fluctuations in the desire to eat, sometimes feeling ravenously hungry, which I think is a lot to do with desiring to ground in more than anything. Anyways, I think there's a lot changing there. I'm probably not really. God, he's coming right over to me. What are you doing, mate? I'll try and capture him. Oh. He's gone into the bushes now, so you probably can't see him. Quite a large skink, considering he's missing the last half of his tail. He came right up very close to my foot, which I thought was quite brave of the little guy. Anyways, so yeah, themes that are most alive. In terms of advice, I think it's relax. I know that's not very new for us to be saying, but yeah, for me, the constant message coming up is to relax into trusting the chaoticness of the change and the emergence of what's arriving, without getting too caught up with trying to understand it all. Just finished a retreat, and one of the conversations I've had with the 18 odd participants, privately and collectively, was this idea of, but I don't know, I don't know what's next, I don't know what to do, I just don't know what to do. Like it's a big fat wrongness, so many people contracted around the emerging recognition, that they actually don't know anymore. They've always thought that they knew, they had a plan, follow the guidelines that have been laid out. But they're coming to the realization that the guidelines aren't functional and useful anymore. And so a lot of people are feeling very, very lost and, quite perturbed by the idea that they're recognizing that they just really don't know. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to do next. They don't know how they should frame their current experience, right? I think collectively and individually we're moving beyond what we've been trained to expect. This is going beyond, the levels of experience that we've been educated into expecting, and therefore having a planned response, right? A programmed response. If this happens, if then do this, if then statements in basic computer language, if this situation arises, then do this. Basically, our education has been around preparing us with if-then type arrangements. If your friend does this, then you should do that. If it starts raining, then you should take cover or put on a raincoat, right? If then. Very, very logical, very, very easy for the mind to relax around, because if this happens, then we know what to do. And now we're coming to realize, I think, collectively and individually, that a lot of the ifs that we're experiencing, we don't have an appropriate then to enact, and this is leaving people quite scared, quite feeling very vulnerable and fragile and uncertain in the world, which is all part of the process, I think. Part of this big time of change from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age is this migration from head-based logic into heart-based intuition. and letting go of the wrongness of I don't know, and embracing I don't know as a massive opportunity to move into your heart and to relax, into trusting life itself to unfold in ways that present opportunities, is massive. And I think it's becoming more and more obvious to more and more people that this is the only way forward now. You know, that I really don't know, and I'm not likely to know, and I'm even letting go. Some of us are really letting go of the desire to know how to do things. Of course, others are still quite contracted around it, but the more of us who can exemplify or be an example of moving in the world, in a world of I don't know, and I don't need to know, and I'm not scared about not knowing, the better off we're going to be. I just had a thought, I'm probably missing comments, so I'm just going to do that and see, because I've seen people come on, but I haven't seen people comment. Okay, so here's Emily Rose's coming up, which I didn't see before, Em, so I'm only just getting all of your comments now. They are singing, yeah, the kids were singing and drumming. It's kind of a morning thing. So school starts here in Vietnam at 6:30 a.m. For those of you who thought it was hard to get to school by 8:30 or 10 to 9 or whenever your school started, 6:30 in the morning they start, and many of them are still coming home at 4:30 in the afternoon or even 5. So they have a lot of different school activities that goes on. Of course, they do have a reasonably long sort of siesta through the middle of the day. I think they're sort of off for a couple of hours. Many of them go home at that time and then come back. But still, it's a very long day for young people. And they take their schooling very seriously here. Em said, I relate. I feel there's a huge release of self-judgment patterns happening for all. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree, Em. I think, and for me personally, this has been a big part of my journey, and it is much of what is alive right now is the relaxing into self-acceptance, you know, and the letting go of self-judgment and the contraction around getting it right, the contraction around being good enough based on these expectations of what's appropriate based on what we've been educated to believe success looks like, and what normal looks like, and what we should be doing and achieving. So, and that's hard, you know, because while there is a massive liberation in letting go of these rule-based expectations of what we should be doing and what we've been trained to believe is appropriate, there's also a massive void in that, and a lack of stability, a lack of continuity. Many of us have spent our entire lives, you know, or most of our lives, trying to be normal, trying to fit in. And now that we're being presented with this opportunity to let go, it almost feels that if we let go of the struggle to be normal and to fit in and to get it right, then we've quote unquote wasted most of our life. And that can be hard. You know, it can be hard to let go of what has felt to a degree purposeful for many decades, and to embrace something new. It can almost feel like we are, what's the word when we don't respect something? Disrespectful is exactly that word. It almost feels disrespectful to the effort that we've put in for so long to try and be normal and try and fit in and trying to be acceptable and trying to win the appreciation of others by people pleasing, to just go, basically, I'm going to use some French, fuck it, and let it all go and just emerge right now as an expression of our individual self. Em said that's exactly what I've been processing around my life. Thanks, Matt. Hey, Sister Stephanie. So, yeah, I think that is a big theme right now, is this trying to validate or trying to find peace with this opportunity to basically expand out of, relax out of this lifelong struggle to be acceptable, and just to choose it right now rather than win it. We have an opportunity right now to declare ourselves good enough rather than to prove ourselves good enough. And that is hard because we've already made such a huge investment in the fight to prove ourselves that it feels quite disrespectful and certainly alarming for our mind to throw away all of that evidence that we've been gathering and all of the fight that we've been engaged in to prove ourselves good enough, even though the whole journey we've been doubting that we are actually good enough. Which is the irony of it. All of these internal self-doubts that we're good enough while we strive and struggle to prove that we are in the external world. And now, I feel more than ever, we have this opportunity just to let all of that go and to embrace our natural good enoughness and just be it, right? Letting go of needing to prove it to anyone or anything anymore is really what has to happen. It's the only way that we're going to actually experience feeling good enough, because we're never going to win the fight. That's the point. We're never going to prove other people, because the whole time we're doubting ourselves. So as long as those doubts are present and we're fighting from a foundation of self-doubt, we're only going to ever experience the reflection of self-doubt back, no matter how hard we try to be good enough. If we're doing it from needing to prove that we're good enough because we doubt that we're good enough to start with, then of course the outcome is going to be a reflection of not good enough and a feeling of disappointment and disrespect and of failure after we've put so much effort into trying to win the appreciation of others by being good enough, and then experiencing not good enough, because we're always going to experience the energy that we're being. And if we're acting from a foundation of not good enough, then that's exactly what we all feel. So here we are with the emergence of a deeper level of acceptance of our divine self, which of course is fundamentally good enough. So it's quite the process. It's quite the process. The mind doesn't want to let go of the fight that's invested so much in. The heart is more and more desiring that we just quote unquote surrender into that right now. Im wrote, surrendering into forgiving me all the unconscious parts vibrationally has been the medicine in this, and just let it go. Yeah. And I talked to someone right at the last minute before they left. They finally came forward and talked about one of their big challenges in their life, and talking about how they can find forgiveness in that experience. And again, I came back to the advice that forgiveness isn't an intellectual process where we validate what someone else has done, where we make excuses for what other people have done, why we try to understand what they did. You don't need to understand why people have done things that have hurt you or hurt others around you and created pain and discordance that you have suffered through, perhaps in this case for many, many decades. This lady had suffered things from much earlier on, and still hadn't managed to quote unquote let it go, right? And she recognizes that forgiveness is the way forward, but society just doesn't teach us how to do that, right? How do you forgive someone who's done something horrific that you don't understand and has created so much pain for you and others? You can't intellectually come to peace with that, and you don't need to. That's the point. Forgiveness is a process of lovingly releasing yourself from the judgments. That's all. You don't need to make it right what they did, but you just need to let go of the wrongness of what they did, right? And trust that it happened for a reason that's beyond your understanding. And even though it was very painful, it's given opportunity for things to grow and change and shift. Even though it created trauma and you've suffered for it for potentially decades or even lifetimes, doesn't make that truth any less real, that things happen to give us opportunities, right? Life is happening for us, not against us. And the actors that play in our life, while maybe not being totally innocent, right? Because they have their stuff going on and they're interacting in a way that gives them opportunities as well. We don't need to take it nearly so personally. And I think that all swings back around to what I was talking about earlier, which is what I've been talking about in our group this month, which is sort of the illusory nature of the world, right? Where we think things are so real, you know, including our memories of the past and the traumas and the wrongnesses that have happened and the judgments we hold against those traumas and wrongnesses. But ultimately, you know, it's all coming through our filters, our perception. And that's, again, not to excuse people for behaving badly. I'm not talking about that at all. But let go of personally wanting to see justice done, right? Personally wanting to punish someone who has hurt you is in no way really going to change the experience you had, right? I know mentally there's a satisfaction in knowing they got their upcomings, or their, whatever the word is, right? They got their punishment for doing a bad thing to you. And that might, you know, create a level of satisfaction in your mind that happened, but ultimately it doesn't have to happen for you to let it go. You know, this is a human construct, this idea of punishing the bad and rewarding the good. The idea of bad and good is in much the same way a human construct, right? It's a social norm. What's good in one society is not good in another society. What's bad in one society is completely acceptable in another society. You know, there's no absoluteness around what's right and wrong. It is very much educated into us through an ongoing succession of belief. So when you can sort of come to that understanding, you can let go of a lot of the contraction you have around bad things that have happened to you in the past and the need to reconcile it with knowing the other person was punished for hurting you, etc., etc. Because as long as you're hanging on to the idea that they need to be punished in order for you to be free of the experience, then you're going to be trapped. Many people are carrying their pain with them because it's evidence that someone has done something wrong to them and they still haven't felt that justice has been done. They can't let go of the evidence, which is the pain that they're carrying, until they get their day to present it in some form of court, which ultimately is never going to happen. So you're only hurting yourself when you keep carrying the pain around, and forgiveness really is an energetic process of just relaxing out of that whole mentality and setting yourself free. You don't need to make what they've done right, but you just let go of making what they've done wrong, and you set yourself free and allow things to move along. Anyway, my friends, I've pretty much done my 30 minutes. I think I have missed a couple of things from M, so I'm just going to read them now. Yeah, M said, I can't believe it's so important since I don't actually believe I mentally need to forgive, but the energy is there. The energy is there, and I need to allow forgiveness for a blame I took on in childhood when abused, for which I completely intellectually know I'm not to blame, and a part of me took it on. So I'm helping that part, and I'm so grateful to be here. Yeah, perfect, Em. That is very true. It's very much. We can very much, as caring, empathic people, turn the blame of the pain onto ourselves, and we have this interesting contradiction going on where we recognize what the person has done was wrong, and yet we blame ourselves for it, and that creates a very entangled situation of judgment in our field, where we blame ourselves for creating a situation where someone else did the wrong thing, and it can be very confusing. And of course we've done this in early life many times, and in past life as well, and in past early life. But you know, as you say, forgiveness is necessary, but I think the importance is to recognize that forgiveness is an energetic process, and we can instigate that through intention rather than through a mental process, and it doesn't need to be hard work. It just requires a little bit of consistency. For me, it's about remembering every morning in my practice or whatever that I'm embracing a vibration of forgiveness to free me of the judgments I hold about the past, whether they're judgments against myself or judgments against others, whatever the judgments are that are basically entrenching the pain that I'm carrying, the trauma that I'm carrying from the past. I consciously choose to hold it in a vibration of forgiveness, like I sometimes refer to it as the Deva of forgiveness, the goddess of forgiveness, who is this beautiful, compassionate being who is coming in to help lubricate this process of releasing past judgments in whatever way they've come to be, so that freedom can emerge and change and shift can occur, release of this pain. I think we've all gone through it as children to some degree. Em said, I totally agree, and my mind is finally getting it a bit also, which feels great to myself that way. Perfect. And and being compassionate with our minds and the desire of our mind to quote unquote be right and have its day in court is also appropriate. I don't think making ourselves wrong for the programs that we carry is useful, and at the same time helping to gently relax out of that mentality again is an intentional pathway that doesn't necessarily require a lot of mental efforting. I think that's important for me, to generally appreciate how powerful and what's the other word I'm looking for? Potent my intentions are, right? How powerful it is just to hold an intention around something rather than think I need to work hard to achieve it, right? To work hard mentally, to work hard physically, to put in the work to achieve the freedom that I want, right? To achieve the success. We've all been trained into thinking hard work is the way forward. And I think in a lot of ways that has entrapped us into allowing energies to shift far more easily if we were to just accept that our intention to shift the energy is very powerful and it is enough. As long as we can maintain that intention with a degree of integrity or consistency or confidence, really, authentic confidence that my intention is a powerful thing, and if I hold an intention around a certain situation and a certain outcome that I'm desiring, then it is going to happen, right? And I can let go of the doubts, and I can let go of trying to measure whether I'm making progress, and I can let go of the need to sacrifice myself in some way in order to earn the outcome that I want. This transactional way of doing life where I receive reward based on my sacrifice that we've all been trained into. Our society runs on it. We pay people based on them sacrificing themselves, and people, generally are poo-pooed for thinking you can survive in this world based on doing what you enjoy, based on doing what you love. That's considered a dreamer mentality, delusional, but it's not. That's the point, right? Because if you can align yourself with that mentality, then it will be absolutely your experience. We're all been given the freedom to have our own experiences of the world, and we can all create those for ourselves, or we can allow the programs to predominate and have that experience as well. And of course, most of us are having some sort of combination of choosing our own narratives and having to work through the programmed narratives and beliefs. So anyway, M said, love it. Potent intent is the best stuff. So deeply comforting to chat. Thanks, Matt. Or to chat, Matt. Thanks. I just change words around to suit myself. Anyway, my friends, I am going to shift on, and I know because breakfast is be waiting over at our retreat venue, Arn Villa, and we will move on with our days here. So much love. Next time I speak to you, I will be in Thailand, and so I look forward to that. Much love to you all. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, don't be shy, reach out. My availability is a little bit limited, but that doesn't mean that I don't have any availability. It just means we have to work a little bit short term with when I'm available and when we might be able to meet up. But in general, it is all achievable. So much love. Bye for now. Namaste.